Hello there, very good evening and welcome to tonight's edition of Recount Watch. I am your host, Eddy Layne, and of course I'm joined by Joe Hamilton, candidate of the People's Progressive Party Civic in the 2020 elections. And of course, Joe is a former member of parliament in the last parliament with the People's Progressive Party Civic. Joe, good evening and welcome to the program.
Hey, Eddie, good night.
Over the last few hours, we have seen a number of developments taking place with regards to the recount. By the way, I think today was a fairly good day in terms of the number of boxes counted, but we still are not up to where we're supposed to be in terms of the recount, so that this exercise can finish in the shortest possible time. I think just over 80 boxes were counted. I think if I could get the exact figure that I'm seeing circulating, if I can tell you, 88 boxes today, but that still will not ensure that we finish within the 25 days. There is a need for an increase in the momentum, whether by addition of new stations or by extended hours, like the People's Progressive Party Civic through our presidential candidate would have proposed. But apart from the count today, Joe, there are some other developments. A very strongly worded statement coming out of the Carter Center, expressing how dissatisfied they are and disappointed of the actions by the coalition to refuse them entry. I think the statement said something to the effect that the action of the coalition. I'm trying to pull that up here. If I can pull this one line out that they mentioned that I think is very, very strong. It says basically they chose not to demonstrate a genuine commitment to transparency. Joe, your thoughts on the recount quickly, and of course the statement by the Carter Center.
All right. The two issues you raised, and let me begin by saying that the fact that you have had APNU AFC today not making no objections at all, because in Region 4, the boxes that were counted are boxes counted from South Georgetown. And what is important to note, the APNU AFC made a lot of noise about affidavit of oath to vote in Region 1, but based on the information coming out of the recount, you had just in South Georgetown one box at 40 of those documents. And there was no objection in that regard. We know that it is legal for a person to vote using that document, but it just shows where they consider to be PPP stronghold. That is where all of these objections, so-called objections, will happen. And therefore, my expectation, Eddie, is that you will have favorable numbers of boxes counted over the next couple of days, because you will be dealing with South Georgetown, the boxes in South Georgetown. So they would have at least objections about debt and migration and all that kind of thing. When you come to North Georgetown and you come to East Coast, we have to be prepared for a slowing down, I believe, of the process, because the manufactured debts and migration again will raise its ugly head. So what it is showing, it's a deliberate strategy to fabricate and concoct these objections in the areas, in the regions that is considered the stronghold of the People's Progressive Party Civic. And of course, the public will know that those objections, many of them, they were already debunked by the people who are alive and well, and the people who are living in Guyana, never left Guyana, never migrated, and a family, husband and wife today, or yesterday, indicated that the irony is that they went out there and vote. They went out there on March 2nd and voted for APNU AFC. And the same people now are saying that they were not here and somebody voted in their name. So that's the type of irony. And you have had the situation where in Belladrum, they objected to 24 names, and PPP just had 3 votes in that polling state. So they have to account for the 18 names that they objected to. So that is what is happening. And as I said, and I repeat, South Georgetown, we will have a lot of boxes counted rapidly. As regards the Carter Center disappointment, that is squarely on the shoulder and the head of David Granger. As GCOM has indicated by its commissioners, that they have done everything possible and practicable to ensure that the Carter Center and all the other observers who are still accredited can come to Guyana. And therefore, it shows a deliberate attempt by Granger not to ensure the Carter Center return to Guyana, because you would note also, Eddy and viewers, that the government is now considering to allow a flight to come to Guyana to take American citizens that they denied last week. The American government, that facility, but I note now they will be allowing this flight to happen. So it shows that it has nothing to do with the COVID-19 protocols. It is a deliberate attempt by Granger to keep the Carter Center out of Guyana, participating in the recount activity. And what is I'm sure the American government and the American legislature would not be pleased at all, because you had the government commenting on the speedy return of the Carter Center, their expectation. You had the Congress, representative of the Congress and even of the Senate speaking to the matter. So the ball is in Granger court, and he must take the blame squarely for denying Carter Center return, even though they are still accredited observers, and we know they have been there since 1990 or thereabout in this country. And many of the new aspects and development of our electoral process, they are based on Carter Center recommendation, their involvement and their technical know-how that they have made available over the period to the Guyana Elections Commission to take it to where we're at today to execute election process. So that is where we're at as regards that, and Granger is responsible for denying the Carter Center entry into Guyana.
Well, what is interesting, Joe, while we're saying this, look at what is happening in Suriname. Suriname is preparing for an election in the midst of COVID-19, and you're seeing observers are going in. A CARICOM team, I think, landed yesterday in Suriname preparing for the elections, to observe the elections. But we, despite allowing the CARICOM team, despite allowing workers from ExxonMobil and so forth to come back into the country, when I say we, I mean Guyana, through the rigging cabal, who are still holding on to power, are making all sorts of excuses as to why the Carter Center cannot return to Guyana, when we all know that these people can do the tests in their country, in the US, and walk with the results like the CARICOM team did. But of course, the reason why Mr. Granger and the others would not want the Carter Center and other international observers who rightly said still hold their accreditation from GCOM. They're still legally accredited for the elections because the process has not been complete. The reason why they don't want that is because when we look at what is happening, you spoke about the objections, the reduction in objections today. I haven't seen anybody running out to the media team outside today from the APNU AFC because it's South Georgetown. So that's an interesting thing that the East Bank, and you're going to see the same thing on the East Coast because you're dealing with an area which they know is their stronghold. You're not seeing any objections. But the reason why this is happening is because another set of Mingo's fraudulent figures have been exposed, and I'm going to share, Joe. I probably bring these up so I can share them with the public, and I'll probably go through a few of them quickly that I have here. Let me get this quickly good. So I'm going to go to this one. All right. So this one is Peters Hall. This is polling box 4170. Apnu 10 straight across. Sorry. Apnu 138, 138. Statement of poll says 138. Statement of recount says 138. But Mr. Mingo declared 198. Give them an additional 60. If I move to the other one here, this is Eccles, the sugarcane fields. Apnu 94 on statement of poll. Apnu 94 on statement of recount. They were given an extra 10 to give them 104 by Mr. Mingo. Golden Grove, and I spoke about some of Golden Grove last night. 111 on statement of poll, 111 on statement of recount, 131 on according to Mr. Mingo. Quickly I do this one more Golden Grove again. This is Samantha Point Nursery. Apnu 207 on statement of poll, 207 on statement of recount. Mr. Mingo gave them 237. So clearly, Joe, and that's just a few boxes. What is interesting is that you have every single person that you can think about from the Apnu AFC running out to the media to make statements about allegations of dead people voting, no evidence whatsoever, allegations of people who are overseas voting, but none of them, and they're refusing to even entertain questions about the fraudulent figures that we keep unearthing every single day by Mr. Mingo. Over 3,000, I think it's heading to 4,000 votes extra from just a few boxes Mr. Mingo has given to the coalition.
Eddy, the latest figure I saw Anil speaking this afternoon at the convention center, and he indicated that the last is about 85, I think he meant 85 boxes with a total amount of votes given to APNU was 4,500 or thereabout. And Mingo took away from us nearly 500 votes. So it's about 5,000 votes basically given to APNU from just these 85 boxes. So it's one seat basically Mingo or thereabout, average of one seat in the National Assembly. This fraud was about to give APNU AFC and Granger and his cabal. The thing is that they cannot speak about it. They will not speak about it because they were the beneficiaries. And secondly, Mingo was not acting on his own. Mingo was acting at the behest of Granger and the APNU AFC. We would know who were at the Ashman Center there over the period, the two days, how busy Valda Lawrence and James Bond they were at the GCOM Center, and how intimately they were involved in the activities of Mingo and Myers and Lowenfield. So Mingo's activity it was being directed by the chairman of the People's National Congress, Valda Lawrence, on the 3rd and the 4th. And we would know that she signed off on Mingo fraudulent declaration. So they will not speak about it, cannot speak about it. And for those who are still dumb enough to speak about it, the question is why Mingo's fraud didn't give any other party votes. Why it was only, that's the question. Why it was only Granger, Cabal, APNU, AFC votes were given to. Why? It is because Mingo was a conspirator with the APNU AFC, with Granger's government, attempting to have Granger sworn in via a rigged election. You know, notably, Eddy, in his wildness, David Patterson, the liar, might have told us some truth. Because if you recall, a couple of days ago, he was asked about their statement of poll, and he said that the APNU AFC statement of poll mirrored Mingo's statement of poll, which was you know, even though, and that might be the case, that might be the problem. The problem might be that APNU AFC is unable and will not at all share their statement of poll with the public because apparently they doctored and manufactured statement of poll to match Mingo's spreadsheet. Same thing might have happened with Layne, the CEO. So neither the CEO nor APNU, and that is my suspicion, they will ever make available their statements of poll to the public because the statements are fraudulent statements of poll. And that is why they're hiding it. That is why they will not bring it forward to share like the PPP we have done and the new parties, they have also done. So we don't expect them going forward to speak about Mingo and his fraud. You know, last night I had to deal with one Stanley Ming. You know, he is one of the moralists and righteous people in this country, and never made a sound about Mingo's fraud because it was in the interest of his party that he supported. But last night, trying to create mischief, he put on Facebook a table that was suggesting that the voters list increased some 72% between 1992 and 2020. Attempting to change the narrative, attempting to go to those arguments and discussions, Eddy, we have had and debunked. The fact is the voters list and the NRR is what it is because we introduce continuous registration. That is the reason why. It is what it is. And people who are registered, their names stay on the list. And we have shown Guyana and no different from the other CARICOM countries. For that matter, many of the CARICOM countries, their percentage of electors versus population is far larger than Guyana. But he comes out of his cave as an APNU apologist, mischievously and deceitfully trying to change the narrative, trying to give a reason as to why you had the 400 and odd thousand people voting and why you have 600,000 persons on the OLE. Those matters are matters we have gone past. Those matters the courts pronounce on. that you cannot remove the names of the persons that are on the list, even though they might have been living out of Guyana for a period, because residency is not a criteria for you to vote. But I'm just showing you that the mischief of some of these people who call themselves the most righteous and holier than thou persons in this country. And once we see them attempt, Eddy, to try to change the narrative or try to give up to a new narrative, we have to pounce on them, and we have to deal with them with no mercy and with no sympathy, in my view, and no diplomacy. We have to call them out for what they are: mischievous, disingenuous people who he at all didn't mention, like Apno, Mingo's fraud. And even though I said to him, you would want to think that that is what you should be speaking about. That is the current matter. You know, you're going back into something that we already gone past 1 year ago about the list and what it is and the size of the list. But you have hundreds of the types, like the Stanley Mings of this world. And he is doing it because he has vested interests. Granger in government, the cabal in government, he will do well with his partner, Armand Son, and the people out of Angola, the Santos, and you know that crew who fleece the Angolan government. Those are his partners. So he sees his fortune in trouble, and you have many of those who continue to speak and spew nonsense on behalf of Granger and his cabal. And so that is where we're at. They wouldn't speak about Mingo fraud, but that is the current issue.
And that's the only issue with regards to illegality, where there is tremendous amount of evidence present to show. You have so many boxes counted. You spoke about the numbers that Anil gave. So you have tremendous amount of evidence to prove that Mr. Mingo manipulated the numbers in favor of the APNU AFC and even took votes from the PPP and I think a few from the other new parties. But you hear them talk about that. In my view, out of all the allegations that the coalition are making with regards to who they claim died and who they claimed migrated, matter of fact, I should probably drop this one that I used last night with the couple from Berbice, who they claimed that the people were out of the country. But you have both the husband and wife speaking about them being in the country at the time of the elections. I'll probably bring this in here so that we can probably share it with the public. This is the lady again. I used this last night. I'm going to use it one more time so that persons can hear for themselves.
The 29th July. And we came back here the 29th of August. And the 2nd of March, we could be here for 6 o'clock. It was out there and we go the at primary school, right? And had two doors and we go in there. Two of us along go in the right hand door and we did it.
So there you have it. The woman explaining when she went out of the and they claim that these persons were out of the country. They claiming that some guy in region 1 was out of the country at the time. The guy is one of their supporters who was on the stage. You have the people in Essequibo who they claim migrated. You have people who they claim died in Horston and all over the place who came out and produced their ID card and said, look, I'm here, I'm alive, and I voted. Nali said that the people got up from the cemetery, went and voted, and went back and rest. They are making all these allegations. In all of this, Joe, what I think the fraud or the offense, the criminal offense in all of this is the fact that they are tampering, they're producing false death certificates and immigration records apparently of people who didn't even left the country maybe for years. So maybe they're the ones should be charged for fraud by fraudulently producing these documents. These are the real fraud, not the allegations of people who are alive, dead, and people who are in Guyana for many, many years, haven't left, claiming that they somehow migrated.
No, the other issue is that you have these people who are utilizing people's private information, and they have it abandoning it all over the place. The movement of one in and out of Guyana is a private matter. It's not a public matter. It's not your business when a person left or returned to Guyana. But what it shows is that the role of Winston Felix in all of this, making available people's immigration record for nefarious reasons and purposes. And that is what he is very much in the thick of all of this that is happening. The death certificates that they're producing, no one is clear whether they're authentic or not. All they do is show up with it, or the couple that they have, and then you have Katiyu saying they have hundreds, and there is no hundreds. And so all they do is lie all the time, you know? And so that is the issue. You have the police charging two persons for protesting, as they say, during the COVID protocol time and not observing the protocols. And they're yet to go and look for Mingo to question him. So you're seeing even the state apparatus is being utilized, as we know, in this matter, and they were very much involved when Mingo was attempting his fraud at the Ashmin building. The role the police played during the day and during the night. We would recall and reflect on the TSU fully armored coming there to throw out party agents and scrutineers and observers. So the police presently, under the present leadership, would not intervene on these fraud and these illegalities that is being perpetuated by agents of Bridger at the moment, but they are able to go, people got peaceful picketing, and they're able to go there to attempt to arrest and to charge people. And that is what is happening. But very shortly, all of that will change, you know, very shortly. And I say to people, just have some patience. This nightmare will be over very shortly for us in this country. When Irfan Ali rightfully is sworn in as president of the Republic and the PVP civic state government. The Mingo fraud, Eddy, the attempt was to get some 20,000 votes, one way or the other. And that is what, when you look at what was being attempted, because they had to get, based on Mingo's last declaration, they had to get 15,000 votes plus 7,000 votes.
Yep.
That is what they had to get. They had to get, we were ahead of them they know that via their statement of poll, between 15,000 to 17,000 votes. And then to create the conditions based on Mingo's spreadsheet that they won by 7,000, it means they had to get 22,000 to 24,000 votes. And that is what Mingo has attempted to do, to spread across the 400 and odd ballot boxes in Region 4, because the other regions were already declared and the numbers were already known. Added to that, the large percentage of Georgetown boxes were already declared. I think it was only 70 odd boxes more for Georgetown that was remaining of some 421, I think was the number. So that was the attempt. And you note some of the numbers you gave not so long ago, where he fraudulently gave to APNU, in some instances, 100 votes. I think in one instance, 120 votes. And he was taking away from us different numbers, some up to 70 votes at a time, when he was giving votes to APNU AFC. And so that is the fraud. The foolish conversation about people who are dead and voted. I mean, that is the mystery in all of this, you know. As Amna said, the dead voted and then they went back to rest. You know, and people who have migrated, who are saying that they were very much here and they voted, and some who have said that they voted for APNU AFC. That is the irony of the problem. That the people who I voted for are saying that I wasn't in Guyana at the time. So now they have moved. The new narrative, Eddy, is we paid off the GCOM staff, all the presiding officers, and we paid off even their agents. That is the new narrative, because the death certificates and immigration, it is being debunked quickly. I'm told critics is having field day every night, producing the people who are dead and people who are not living in Guyana anymore. So they have now moved the narrative to where we bought out all the presiding officers and we bought out their agents. And I saw James Bond this afternoon in a mad state, now saying that people were just flashing. People were just flashing their ID card when they went to vote. And he has said also the new narrative that the folios, you couldn't see the people's photograph properly. So every day is something new to make up, to explain why they lost. I saw one, Ronald Austin Jr. also, and I keep saying, you think the young ones would be more saner, but they're more diseased than the older ones. He is saying they lost, but he's saying the difficulty they have is that how some of the votes that they saw on the statement of poll in their stronghold, how it came to be. I mean,
Talked about
yes, you don't understand that. That he said, you know your stronghold. And when you saw your stronghold as weak as that, that is the problem. It's not that we lost, but we're not understanding how we lost. Well, you lost because Granger and his cabal did not govern in the interest of the Guyanese people. As simple as that. That is all it is. You lost because people who voted for you in 2015 They were not anymore deceived by Granger's deception, and they did not turn out to vote for you. You know, when you had 70% in 2015, you got 60-something%, and in some of these locations. So you lost because you weren't a good government. You lost because the people didn't see you bringing anything new in their interest in 2020. You lost because the PPP put before the Guyanese people a new program and plan for the development of Guyana. And people saw that being a realistic program and plan. That is what you lost. That's why you lost. It has nothing to do with these manufactured conspiracies that you bring to the public every day.
So, thank you very much for joining me this evening. Of course, we're going to be back here tomorrow evening to continue the discussions and to bring to the public information on the recount process. As we also, I don't want to use the word debunk, but as we expose the lies, misinformation by the coalition, trying to divert attention in their desperation mode, and of course, as we expose the fraud committed by Mr. Lingo. Joe, again, thank you very much for joining me this evening.
Hey, Eddy, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much to our viewers. Bye for now.